Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Agency Platform VIP bi-weekly webinar series. Hopefully you're having a great day. Today, we're going to go over some of the hidden treasures on the dashboard, starting with SEO KPI reporting, and then we're going to wander in a bit of the new releases as well as a bit of the reputation suite. But before we get kicked off too far, if you can let me know in your chat area if you can hear me okay and see my screen okay. Okay, thank you, Emily. Good to know. So, how many of you have had time to play around with the KPI reporting? Now, of course, if you haven't before sold SEO services, chances are you might not have, but Weston here is saying that he has before. And the KPI reporting can seem a little bit daunting for some, but it can be really supplemental. Before we talked a little bit about different methods to retain your clients, KPI reporting is something that I think, because of the amount of data that's involved, is more geared towards you as our strategic partner and probably a bit less towards the client. I would recommend digging a bit through the KPI reporting to identify improvements to point out to the client. So for example, a lot of people that are selling SEO services rely solely on keyword rankings to be able to show performance or results, or to justify to the client why they are paying you money. However, there's a lot more to an SEO campaign, and there's a lot of different ways to measure improvements in a campaign other than just raw rankings, such as traffic, page views, impressions, as well as quantity of workload that's actually being done. So it is beneficial to you, especially for client retention, to become familiar with the KPI reporting. And Emily's asking, what is KPI reporting? Well, KPI means key performance indicators. Pretty much indicators on performance, if you say it backwards. And inside the dashboard, if you enter into a client project, if you're running an SEO campaign and go to the SEO tab, you'll see that you have SEO KPI report. Now, I do want to point out that the SEO KPI report is available from the client dashboard, meaning if you were to create a client user login, the client could log in and see their own KPI reporting if they wanted to. I assume you all know how to provide your clients with login. Give me a shout out in chat if you do not know how to provide your clients with login. And Weston, by the way, if you have any shout outs on how you've used KPI reporting before, it'd be interesting to hear what you have to say about that. So whenever you open this up, you'll notice on the page views section, the way that we track page views and total traffic is going to be from Google Analytics. And we're going to be tracking page views on KPI according to what you have selected. So for example, I have selected 30 on the calendar icon up here, which means I'm doing a KPI comparison over the last 30 days. So if I'm meeting with a client to talk to them about their campaign, I don't just have to talk to them about rankings. What I can also talk to them about is the number of page views that they have received. On this particular account, I would be able to sit down and talk to them and say, well, we're up by 1,000 page views, which is not tremendous, but again, it's just going to depend. Whenever it's a local client and you have KPI variations, it's going to be to a greater extreme, right? Because they're going to have less traffic. So it's very possible you could double their traffic, which could double their page views and double their traffic. And if you look over here at the traffic, of course, traffic is going to be a big indicator. And it's going to let you know the current as well as the previous date period and then overlap it. If you're into backlink monitoring, some people are, if you're technical. If you have a big client, oftentimes they're going to be a bit more savvy on backlinks. If you have a big enough client, it's possible they may even have an in-house marketing director that is really into backlinks. So this would come in handy on link acquisitions. So we would be able to show them data from Moz as well as Ahrefs on if we are making improvements or not. So for example, on this one, domain authority has gone up by, improved by 3 in the last 30 days, which is a pretty big deal for those SEO practitioners out there. And Emily's asking, how do we get to this page? Well, you would enter into a campaign. So from the home, that might be where you're getting confused, Emily. You scroll down from home until you get to a project. So for example, I had selected demo project 2. And by the way, that keep in mind, well, I'll come back to demo projects later. Before I wrap up, make sure you guys pull me back to explain the value of demo projects. I don't want to go off on a tangent on that right now. Let me get back to so from home, you go enter into a project, then off of the SEO tab, you would find SEO KPI reporting. So lead acquisition data and data comparison on that is valuable, but it's not going to be valuable to speak to a client about unless that client happens to be technically savvy in SEO. Otherwise, I would not dare speak about the link acquisition data to a client unless they're savvy. And then we have total impressions. So total impressions in Google Webmasters. If you're not sure what impressions in Google Webmasters means, you can Google it, but to give you a short summary, an impression means the amount of time that a website has shown up in the search engine when someone did a search. That's what it means. Now, what page did they show up on? It's not necessarily an indicator. It just means that you are visible whatever someone typed in a keyword into the search engine. So it's more of a blanket statistic on visibility in the search engines. It's not based on keyword rankings. It's not based on traffic, and it's not even an engagement statistic. But it does show you, based on every single keyword in the world that you could possibly show up for in Google, how many times you actually showed up when someone did a search, which would mean that for this website in the current period, they showed up 586 times over the last month, which is an improvement by 87, or roughly you could say 10%, right? So that's powerful. And I do believe that, not just rankings, but the amount of impressions that you're getting in Google is powerful as well. And here's why. Let's say if you're tracking 10 keywords in Google, does that mean, and whether you're using our platform or any keyword rank tracking software, if you're tracking 10 keywords in Google and the rankings that you have in those, does that mean that you are only ranking for 10 keywords because you're tracking 10 keywords? Absolutely not. And it, some could debate that it could be impossible to track every single keyword that you're possibly showing up for. And although for those of you that know Webmasters well, you may know otherwise, but the amount of impressions is going to be a blanket number based on every single keyword that you showed up for. So it's beyond a keyword ranking report and it's a different type of reporting. For me, understanding the amount of impressions is an important KPI to be able to report to a client whenever you're digging and trying to find, okay, well, maybe you're preparing for a client meeting and you're thinking, what am I going to present in this meeting? What kind of a KPI am I going to show to them? What kind of movement in the campaign can I show to them as well? And impressions is one of them. Now, clicks obviously is going to be something that you want to show. Okay, so let's talk about clicks and Webmasters a little bit. My personal preference may be that this click section is not so prominent. Here's the deal with clicks from Webmasters, and hopefully we'll deal with this in the dashboard at some point in time. And before I dive into this, let me say this on the SEO KPI reporting. If it were me, if you're creating a report to send to the client, I would take a screenshot of the sections that you want to send to them, and I'd throw it in an email, or whether you want to throw it into a Word document or whatever to send it over. But I would dig through the dashboard and the different things that you want to check on for KPIs and that you want to report over to them. And I would take a screenshot of it and send it over to them, or if you're doing a video for them, I would just focus on that. Total clicks via Google Webmasters tool. Okay, so in Google Webmasters, they're not going to show you clicks for keywords that are part of what you could call the private data. So if you've ever, for example, looked inside of Google Analytics at traffic and you're trying to see what keywords are driving the majority of traffic to your website, if you're savvy with Google Analytics and if you've dug into that enough, you'll know that oftentimes the majority of keywords that are driving traffic to your client's website, you will not be able to identify in Google Analytics. And the reason why, and Google will tell you why right in there, is that it's because that keyword is a result of private data. Meaning what? Meaning that who searched for that keyword was logged into their Gmail or Google account, and therefore showing what keyword they typed in to arrive to the website is considered private data, and they're not able to show you that data in your Google Analytics. So they'll show you just the amount of traffic that came through based on private data keyword. Point being, for those types of keywords, they're not showing the clicks in webmasters. So my long way of pointing out to that is I wouldn't report on the webmaster clicks that are in here because the private data keywords that would be sending clicks are not reported through webmasters, which means the amount of clicks are tremendously underreported in webmasters and could be so by 95%. And again, we'll be addressing that on our side in development on the dashboard. So beyond that, on KPI tracking, if you happen to be running social media for the client, we can provide KPI tracking on Twitter as well as Facebook for the likes. Is it possible for us to do KPI tracking on Twitter and Facebook if you're not running a social media campaign? That is a possibility. And then, of course, if you are running ads. If you're running Google ads as well as Bing ads, we'll be able to track KPI results for you in the compiled report. But I'm mainly going to focus just on the SEO KPI data. So if you haven't used SEO KPI data, that is where you're going to find it. Does anyone have any questions on SEO KPI data? Okay. So next, what I wanted to jump into was the digital reputation portion of this. A lot of you are into selling local SEO, which makes sense. However, whenever I type in a search term for a local client, if I type in dentist Kansas City, as you all well know, in the map section, which shows up in real estate before anything else, I see prominently star ratings. So for example, if I was able to do local SEO for a client and in the map section, I was able to get them on the 3-pack up top. If they don't have a strong reputation, in other words, if the number 1 dentist has a 3-star rating and the number 3 dentist has a 5-star rating, all the traffic's going to go into the one with the better reputation. So it's important for those clients who are running local SEO to also be concerned about their reputation. And by reputation, I mean reviews. Now, when reviews are left online, of course, you prefer not to get negative reviews and you want to get positive reviews. One misconception that is there for marketers and a lot of marketing agencies is that if a local business already has a lot of reviews, they're not interested in any sort of reputation marketing services. And that is absolutely not true. If you talk to agencies that specialize in reputation marketing and have a large volume of reputation marketing clients, in fact, they'll let you know that sometimes the clients with the best reputation and the most reviews have a greater interest in purchasing reputation marketing than those that don't. Why? Because they've already been focusing on reputation, they're putting work into it, and they want to continue putting work into it. So you can always improve anybody's reviews. And also, for those of you that keep up on the, let's see, I'll just share a link with you here. Let's see the 2017 local ranking maps factors, and we'll probably pull out the Moz data. So what I will share with you is a link to the Moz research on local ranking factors, particularly in the snack pack, the 3-pack. And if you look into here, it's not huge, but even according to Moz, the reviews that you have is a local ranking factor. So let me just send this out to entire audience. So I'm sorry. Okay. So if reviews are not only, obviously, we all know why reviews are important to a local business, right? No one wants to do business with someone that has a poor review score. But on top of that, the reason why you would want to continue getting good reviews is because it's documented by any research company that researches and provides data and statistics on reviews. For organic local SEO results, reviews play a 7% impacting factor. And again, that's going to vary. And then it plays a 13% impact for the local map section 3-pack. Now, that's not huge. And I get it that that's not huge, but it is significant. And it's significant enough to talk to a client about that if they're going to ask you, oh, well, does reviews impact my rankings in the local maps and the organic local results? And the answer to that is an absolute yes, it does impact it. So one, for rankability and ranking influence, it's important to work on reviews and also, of course, for reputation. With that, and well, and the other plus side to this is you can charge for it. So just to have access to be able to use our reputation suite, it doesn't cost money to use it initially. There's a certain amount of credits that it comes with to solicit emails and text messages out. And we'll get to that later. So whenever you get into the digital reputation suite, which by the way, this is unlocked for you for free whenever you purchase a local SEO campaign. So when you go to purchase local SEO, feel more than free to also sell to your client reputation marketing. On the overview inside of here, you see the visibility reviews mentions. I'm not going to get into this too deep. I'm going to instead skip right over to reviews. And I didn't even know about this new feature. As a new feature, you can now respond directly to Google and Facebook reviews from inside the dashboard, as long as you connect your accounts. So in the dashboard, it's obviously monitoring your star ratings, the most recent review, and then what you're able to do is respond directly to the reviews from inside the dashboard, which is handy. And then what you can do as well is click a button right here. It says show review on website widget. And if you click check, it's going to publish that review on the client's website. So let me state that one more time. When positive reviews come through, we capture them and monitor them, and we show them for you here consolidated in the dashboard. And you can come in, and if you check a little box, it's going to publish that review directly to a widget on the client's website. Why would we want to show positive reviews on the client's website? Well, why not? Because whenever people land on the client site, we want them to see the reviews that are there and not have to go searching and looking around to figure out what their reputation is. Furthermore, on that, if you're wondering how do you get the reviews to show up on the client's website, from here on the top right, if we go to review widget settings. So on review widget settings, we're able to put a widget on the website that will display the positive reviews. And if I go to edit website widget, it's going to give me the embed code so that I can put the widget directly on the website. So what does it look like? On the right-hand side, you see this preview. It says what people are saying, and then it's going to show the positive reviews that are coming in from whatever you selected, whether it's Facebook or Google or TripAdvisor or whatever else was there. And then you see this nice little button that says give reviews. So if someone wants to come in and leave a review from the website as well to have published over on Google, they would be able to. But not only that, but you're also able to customize how this widget looks, which is nice. And then, of course, right here is where you have the full widget embed code. So you just grab that embed code, throw it to your designer or whoever, throw it on the client's website, and now you have streaming positive reviews on the website. That's good. And it helps them with conversion. You want to change the looks of the widget that's on the website? Well, you can change what it says over here. You can change the color. You can change about whatever you want. Okay, what else is there over here? Now I'm going to dive into what's called on digital reputation. We're going to go down to survey. So what this is on survey is the ability, it gives you the ability to solicit your clients, customers, or clients to leave reviews. So how does that work? Well, you can give your client access to this dashboard to do it themselves, or you can do it for your client. But what you would need to do is ask them for example, a list of their customers or clients that had transacted with them within the last 30 days. Now, in order to ask for that, you need their email address and or phone number of their customers or clients. Now, there are businesses, in particular business categories, such as a restaurant, that may not have any of their clients or customers' email addresses or phone numbers that transact with them at all. In that case, you would need to consult with them and figure out how to get that information, and there's ways to do that. But for the most part, most local businesses are going to have either an email address or their phone number to their clients. So that's what you would need to get. When you get that, and I'm going to come back to this overview page here. So to explain to you how this works, I'm going to jump into survey. Once you get that list of emails and or cell phone numbers from the client, you're going to put it into a CSV format. Yeah, where it says no, only CSV file format is allowed. And then you can view an example file format here. It's going to be pretty easy. And then you would upload it. Or, of course, you can copy and paste them in. Now, then you choose survey type. You can choose email and or text messaging. So whenever you do that, you'll see that you have 1,000 surveys remaining. So to purchase more credits, I'm not on the top of my head sure what it is, but meaning that for free, you can solicit 1,000 contacts, which is a lot. For most local clients, you'll probably never use that entire load up, which means that you pretty much get this entire reputation suite for free. And then you have a subject line. For example, we would love to hear back from you. Message, we would like to get feedback about your experience working with us. Your response to the survey would help us improve our service further. That could probably use some improvements on what you're saying. And you can write in there whatever you would want. The objective of the message is what? To get the person to leave a review. Now, if your client wants to offer some sort of an incentive for people to leave a review, you can do that, but you have to be careful. Now, you're not supposed to pay people to leave a positive review or reward them for leaving a positive review. However, very specifically in the terminology that we used, it says your response to this survey will help us improve our service further. So we're asking them to respond to a survey, and based on their survey response is whether we will or will not ask them to leave a review. And why would that be the case? Well, the survey that we're going to give them is pretty simple, and to summarize it for you, it's going to be more like, well, would you recommend us to a friend? And if they said yes, we're going to ask them if they'll please leave us a review. And if they say no, we're going to ask for their feedback. So further down from here, you'll choose what review sites you want to ask the client to leave the review on, whether it's Google or Yelp or Facebook. Oh, this is Google Plus, it's Google. So chances are you're going to choose Google, and then you can preview this and what the message would look like. So whenever it goes out, if they answer the survey correctly, and let me go ahead and click preview and show this to you. Well, it's just the message. What it will do is start the survey, and then let me show you what the feedback survey template looks like. Whenever they click survey, it's simply going to ask, would you recommend us, yes or no? And this can be changed as well. If I click edit, you can change what this says. For example, you could say, did you have a good experience with us? Or you could also say, instead, you could say, would you refer us to a friend? Whatever you would want to say. The point behind no matter what you're going to say is going to be, if they say yes, we're going to ask them to leave a review and give them the direct link to the review site right there. If they say no, we're going to ask them for direct feedback because they're going to have a negative thing to say. So if they say yes, then I'll show you screen 2. It says, please choose your favorite site and review us. And that's going to be a Google review or a Facebook or a Yelp, and there's also ways to configure other review sites. My recommendation would be to only activate one at a time that's most important to you. And why? Well, if someone's going to ask me to leave a review, I'm definitely not going to go leave you a review on 3 different sites. And you're going to have a hard time just getting me to leave a review on one site. So I recommend to you that when you run a review survey for a client, just choose one that's the primary, and it's usually going to be Google. And then screen 3. So if they said that they did have a good experience, or they would refer you to a friend or whatever that was positive, then you ask them to leave a review and they'll give a direct link. Now, if they said no, they didn't have a good experience, we're going to show them this. Sorry, you did not have a great experience. How can we improve? And you can edit what this says with the little edit icons. Now, when they hit submit on their negative experience, it's not going to publish that as a review online. And that's the benefit of having a review system. You get good feedback when you want it, and you get it published online in a review format, and negative feedback goes directly to where? Well, let's look at this. So where would negative feedback go to? Negative feedback is going to go, if I go back to survey, and this is where you're sending the survey out, and I click feedback, this is where we're going to see the feedback that came back. And you'll see feedback according to every single person that was solicited. And then you can get in here and see what it's saying. You can also forward negative feedback over to the client. And then you can filter the feedback as well. Okay, so what's worth discussing for a little bit would be what's more valuable, a positive review or negative feedback? And although we call it negative feedback for the benefit of this discussion, let's call it constructive criticism, right? So if I own a business, let's say that I own a restaurant, for example, and let's say that I get a positive review, right? Now that positive review has the benefit of a 13% ranking influence factor in my Google Maps listing. Fantastic. It also has the benefit of increasing my star rating and having someone that said something good about me in a review on Google or wherever. And then also, because I clicked the checkbox inside the system, I now publish that positive review to the widget on the client's website, and that's cool as well. But what is the client going to learn from that positive review? Nothing. They're going to read that someone said something good about them, and they're not really going to learn anything from it. It'll probably boost their ego, make them feel good, but they're not going to learn anything from it. So whenever you're talking to a client about reputation marketing and how you can help them with this, keep this in mind. We've covered all of, most of all of the positive benefits of positive reviews, and most of them are common sense. But to open-minded business owners who could be your clients, a negative review, not negative review, negative feedback, aka let's call it constructive criticism, could be more beneficial for them to obtain than a positive review. And it's just a discussion to have with the client and to show them that both are positive, because whenever you're pitching reputation marketing services to a client, some of them get scared. Some of them are worried about you soliciting all this feedback from them, and they're worried about getting negative reviews, which you can let them know that's not how the system works, but they're not interested in the negative feedback. Negative feedback is incredibly important to any business, and especially from the business's clients or consumers or customers, because they're the ones that are going to tell you why what went wrong, why they didn't have a good experience, why they would never come back and eat there again if it's a restaurant. Or for example, negative feedback could be in the form of, I went to the restaurant, my waiter was so rude, I waited so long for the food, and blah, blah, blah. And then maybe the next negative feedback that comes back is the same thing, and they describe the same waitress. And the third one comes back and it's that same waitress. And as a result of being able to accept negative feedback through, your client was now able to fire the waitress that was causing them all of the problems. So, and that's just one example. Other examples could be on and on and on. Negative feedback is incredibly powerful, but it's not easy to get negative feedback in a constructive manner. And here's why. And this is just a restaurant as an example, but it goes for all of them. Well, let's use a dentist as an example as well. Let's say that someone did not have a good experience at the dentist, or they're not happy. Well, how are you going to get feedback from them? You're not going to be able to ask them. None of the dental employees are going to be able to ask them and get a direct answer or an honest answer, because it's just human nature. We don't like telling people that we didn't like what they cooked for dinner. We don't like telling people when we didn't have a good experience with them or not. Typically, people will nod their head and they'll leave, and then they'll go talk to their family and friends and everyone else and say what a horrible dentist they were because they didn't like this or they didn't like that. So you need a way to be able to reach out to your customers or clients and give them the ability to leave feedback, and even give them the ability to leave feedback in a non-confrontational manner. So keep that as part of your pitch. And if you wanted to Google what I was just talking about, you'll find all sort of supporting articles and documents and all kinds of stuff talking about how important negative feedback is. Here's one other thing. This can also be used as a feedback tool for employees, and a lot of people never think about that. So some people use this even for employee feedback. Now, whenever you send out a survey to, and I'll go back to survey here. Let's say that I loaded in parallel, because maybe I had a client's email and text message. In that case, if I had a whole list and my client said, oh, you know what? I have a client that is I don't know. I have a client that is I don't know, a jewelry store, and for whatever reason, they collect the email addresses and cell phone numbers of all their customers. And they have a list that is 200 deep, and they have the email and the text and the cell phone number to all of these 200 deep list. Would I load in on a CSV all the emails and all of the cell phone numbers and solicit both of them? I would. I really would, because you're going to get a much better response by text messaging than by email. Once you load that, say 200 list in and send it out, you're going to be able to track the results of that outreach effort from the dashboard overview. And it's going to let you know of course, how much positive feedback or negative feedback you've got, or feedback pending, how many new reviews you've had, but it's also going to give you insights into how your outreach campaign went. So for example, if you sent out 26 email requests, what was the email open rate? How many people clicked the feedback link, right? And then from there, you'd be able to break it down even further. So if you sent out 26 emails and you had 25 emails delivered and 1 bounced, and out of that, you'd be able to know how many of those 25 that were delivered, how many of them were opened, and how many of them were not opened. Now, the reason why this data is important is because you want to be able to go back to your client if it's not working and say, hey, listen, I know you gave me a list of, say, 200 of your contacts to solicit for reviews, but when I sent the email out, 100 of the 200 bounced. And of the 100 that I did send, only 10 people opened it, which means maybe you gave me a list that's old, or people don't know who you are, but I don't know why they wouldn't have opened it. So for the ones that did open it, you'll then be going to be able to see how many actually clicked on the link to complete the survey, right? And of those that completed the survey, how many did say yes, and how many then clicked on to leave a review? So this just allows you to troubleshoot the process and have insights into the visibility of what's going on in your outreach effort to get those reviews. And then at the end, you're going to be able to see how many reviews you were able to get. That's for emails. Similarly, for text messages on the right-hand side, if they sent out text message, you're going to be able to see how many were sent, and of those that were sent, how many were delivered? Of those that were delivered, how many clicked a link to leave the survey? How many clicked a link saying that they had would recommend you or not recommended you? How many visited the review site, and how many actually left a review? And you'd be able to troubleshoot that process a bit. So what would you do in the troubleshooting process, for example, if maybe based on the ratio of people that clicked to get to the leave feedback didn't actually leave feedback, or click to get to the link, the page that asked them to leave a review didn't? Well, maybe you can modify the text that's on that portion, like I said that you could, or maybe you want to offer some sort of an incentive to fill out the survey form or something like that. And that's how the reputation marketing suite works. So this is really powerful, and this goes hand in hand with local SEO. And this suite comes for free when you purchase a local SEO campaign, even if you're paying for a lower local SEO campaign. And I point this out because it won't be like this forever. So you might as well take advantage of it while you can. And whenever you're pitching your clients on local SEO, let them know that you can also help them out with their reputation. And I recommend calling this reputation marketing. So looking at some questions here, Emily says, can we add options to review links? Angie's list for a pool client. I'm not sure, Emily. You probably check out the live chat in the dashboard and submit a question on that, but possibly. So I'd recommend that you can get in here and, again, go to a demo account off of the home screen at the bottom, jump into a demo account and get into digital reputation and click around and check it out. And yes, if you want to charge for this, you certainly can. You can do it as a value add to show your client, well, you buy the local SEO from me and I can do this for you for free, but you can also charge for it. Now, it is true, if you wanted to go to and give the client access to use this entire reputation suite by themselves, you can do that. But you are also able to get in here and do this for the client as a service, which is what I recommend doing, because the clients aren't going to jump in here and do it themselves. How much should you be able to charge for sending the surveys out and offering the software for reputation marketing to a client? Well, the agencies that do this for a living, it's a minimum of $100 a month. And I don't even want to talk about some of the upper rates that other agencies charge just for doing this on other platforms, but definitely could go for $100 a month all day long, and it goes up from there. Any questions on the reputation suite, reputation marketing, or how it goes along with local SEO? Okay, a couple other touch points. Keep in mind, whatever you enter into your dashboard, if you scroll down, you're going to see these demo projects. And I was just in a demo project. One of the things that people do not think about is the ability to use a demo project to help you pitch a client. You're able to white label this dashboard. You can put it off your domain name and you put your logo up in there on the top left-hand corner, and all of a sudden you have a dashboard. But to really wow the client, especially if you're in person and you have a laptop and you're doing a pitch session on a new lead, or whether you're pitching them remotely, you can fire up screen sharing. And even if you're just clicking through this and showing them some stuff while you talk about some of their goals and objectives for their marketing in a more traditional sales pitch, I would be showing them the advanced technologies that you utilize because it's powerful. And chances are anyone that's going to be pitching them marketing services is never going to have a dashboard that's going to compare to this. And it's going to give you a lot of credibility just for your lead that you're pitching to be able to see the caliber of technologies that you're operating on. For example, you'd be able to go in and show this demo project where you can show them how you handle lead tracking, which, by the way, most of this comes with local SEO even, on form tracking, call tracking, total chats, so you can show the lead tracking, keyword position, the reviews that are coming through, which is why I just talked about reviews, right? That's why it's so prominent. Audit score, I wouldn't take them through the audit score like this, but I would show them, we have automated artificial intelligence technologies and everything else that keeps a tab on monitoring on your website, whether it's mobile friendly, the visibility in directories, social media, your competitors, even your reviews, and then your Google My Business Listing Insights. I wouldn't spend too much time talking about this in depth, but I would show them how insane your technologies are behind the scenes so that they understand that you are so technologically advanced with that it's going to add credibility to your name and to what you do. And that's just with the homepage. If you're talking to them about SEO at all, you can crack open something for that. If they start asking you about social media, and again, doesn't mean that you're only talking about the dashboard, but you can certainly be clicking around. If you start talking about social media marketing services, crack this open. And I wouldn't start going through all the different features, but as you're talking to them about social media marketing services, for example, you could break away from your normal sales pitch and then dive in for a little bit, and just to be able to say, and by the way, for example, if you're able to look at the screen, we're looking at Facebook, you'll be able to see that not only do we publish content for you and strategize, but we're also able to show KPI tracking based on when the campaign started and until now, for example, with your likes, your stories, your posts, and things like that, content and stats, and then move forward. But it shows them the level of intelligence and data that you have and what you're able to do. So a lot of you talk about a lot of agencies that are startups or newbies that are out there talk about, well, yeah, I'm able to get in front of leads, but credibility is an issue for me. And that's why we get asked a lot for, do you have case studies? What do I say for this? What if my client puts me into a corner and says, oh, well, how much experience do you have? How much of this have you done? Here's one of the things that combats the need for a client that's evaluating to hire you for marketing for credibility. Listen, when you pop open $1 million dashboard in front of them and start going through a demo account that's this impressive, very few people are going to doubt your credibility. How could you possibly own a dashboard like this and have this level of data and sophistication that's behind you and not have credibility? So it really combats that. And it's not as if whenever you're pitching a lead, they're sitting there as if they're holding your resume and they have this workflow that they go through. And regardless of how you present yourself or what you say or what you show them, they're going to go through this spiel of asking you about your credibility and your credentials as if they're hiring an employee, such as, well, how many clients have you had? and what kind of clients have you had, and what kind of results have you had, and blah, 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 blah. Instead, what if you were able to, for example, go through some of the KPIs and benchmarks on the demo account and show them some of the results that have been had? If you didn't notice, the demo account has real data in it. And that KPI section that I went over earlier has real data in it. So if you wanted to be able to tell them that this is an example of a campaign, some of the results that were achieved by this, is that lying? Well, absolutely not. Those are the results that we got. We're partners. We work together. It's all in the same thing. So it's 100% legit to show them this as your dashboard and as your results. And it's no better way to do that than to show them this. And if they want to know how you handle lead tracking, I would even pop open lead tracking a little bit and show it to them. And it's going to wow them. Now, whenever I talk to agencies and I'm consulting them, most people don't use demo accounts in their pitches. I would recommend it. If you've got a solid pitch deck down and you have a certain way that you're pitching clients, then great. And if you flow through it and that's what you need, fine. But if you're looking for credibility and if you're looking to be able to show people what you're capable of doing, keep in mind, you have ridiculously powerful demo accounts sitting in here just for that purpose. These demo accounts are not in here just for you to click around on and check out. You're also able to use these in client pitch sessions as examples of the technologies and the capabilities that you have as a marketing agency. Okay, looking at questions. I don't have too many coming in. So with that being said, we've got about 10 more minutes in the webinar, which, wow, that time flew by. If anyone has any general questions that you want to give a shout out on that you want me to address or answer, anything from high to low before I start wrapping this up? While I'm waiting for any questions that may come through, I'll remind you of where the past webinar recordings are. If you go into pre-sale and drop down, and then you're going to see webinars. So if you want to view the previous webinars that we've had, they could be really beneficial for you. Last webinar that we had was about client retention. Shadow this one a little bit. Making new customers, new sales tool. So their new sales tool was released on helping you to choose the best SEO packages and plans for the client, which is powerful. And then the webinar before that was choosing the best niche to go after for your marketing agency. This one was powerful, bundling services for your local client. So we went over what was called the marketing trifecta for local clients, learning further dashboard features, technical training on local SEO and Google My Business. So if you wanted to have training where we go line item by line item by line item and explain local SEO, well, that's the webinar for that one. Lead generation using audit reports, good webinar. And then some other older ones. So Emily says, where are the webinars? Yeah, in the top, if you click on pre-sale, drop down to the bottom to marketing library. I click on marketing library, and then I'm here. And inside the marketing library, you'll see the webinars. From here, you can view them, you can download them. But also, since we're in here, there's also case studies. And are you able to white label these case studies? Yes, you are. So if I was going to open a dentistry clinic PDF on a case study, there you go. So there are all of your case studies broken down by dentistry, dentists, attorneys, bail bonds, catering, cosmetic surgery, jewelry company, HVAC, lawyer, liquor, plumbing, wedding, and storage. And shout out to Nitin or Justin J. Have you ever seen this before? Because these are not the case studies I saw before. These are much, much improved case studies. Anyone else on the webinar been looking for case studies? These are nice. Okay. From there, if you want to be able to download client intake forms to send over to your client, you can do that. If you've ever sold enough services before, you'll know that getting intake forms completed by a client after you pay is difficult to do. So it doesn't hurt to download these ahead of time. And when you know your client's ready to pay, you send in the intake form as well. And then you'll see dashboard training. So if you're looking for training videos on how to use the dashboard, this is where they're going to be. Keyword ranking dashboard, SEO crawler audit, request a quote, on and on and on. So if you want to have tutorial videos that's going over how to use the dashboard, this is where you're going to find them. And again, that is from Download Training. Okay. All right, everyone. Well, I'll go ahead and wrap it up as we're approaching the end of the hour. If you have further questions, of course, you can always jump into the dashboard. And remember, we have a live chat option available. So for the bottom right-hand corner, you should have a live chat option inside of your dashboard that you can click on, and you'd be able to chat with a sales consultant. And remember, as we went over before, if you are able to check it out on the pre-sales tools, if you go into pre-sale and drop down to the pre-sales tool, we have in beta the new SEO sales tool, which allows you to come in, enter the client's business information, choose their business area, select the topics, and it will let you know the best SEO plan for that client based on what you've selected. And there's a previous webinar on that. So keep that in mind. And if you are able to get in here, remember that this is in beta. So any feedback that you have for us, we'll be more than happy to accept it. All right, everyone, I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up, and we'll see you next time in 2 weeks on the next webinar. Take care.